What's brewing, coffee lovers? Welcome to the Caffeine Show. On this week's episode, we're going to update you on a story we covered quite a few weeks back. We're going to talk about the London Coffee Festival, and we're going to have our opinion on the Kohi PressoPump. So, an update to a previous story that we covered in episode 3. And this is the legal case in California, which could result in cancer warnings being placed on coffee cups and packaging. Since that video, a Californian judge has now ruled that coffee must come with that said label in the state of California. The decision came after a long-running lawsuit brought by the Council for Education and Research on Toxins against dozens of coffee companies, including Starbucks. This falls under the 2008 Safe Drinking Water and Toxic Enforcement Act, which requires companies to warn their customers about the presence of carcinogens or toxins in their products. Fair enough. The compound in question is acrylamide, and it's created during the coffee roasting process, which, when isolated and exposed in massive doses, has been shown to cause cancer in animals. The question the lawsuit sought to answer was whether this chemical is harmless in coffee, and the burden of proof fell on the coffee companies, who the judge said were unable to prove that acrylamide in coffee posed no significant health risk. But the Council for Education and Research on Toxins have not had to prove that coffee is actually cancerous in humans or show any cases of cancer from exposure to coffee. This decision comes at a time when there's a wealth of studies that prove that coffee not only has significant health advantages, but in some cases reduces the risk of cancer. Even the American Institute for Cancer Research has stated decisively that coffee does not need a cancer warning because scientists say it protects from cancer. Technically, it's not quite over yet, and the judge has given the coffee companies a few weeks to file objections before the ruling is finalised, although it has been very rare for judges to go back on their initial rulings. Unfortunately for coffee companies in California, there could be a further kick to this story, which could determine civil penalties of up to $2,500 a day per person over the last 8 years. Now, our biggest concerns are for those small to medium-sized businesses caught up in all this, who don't have the money to fight this on their own. This is a situation where the organisations who look after the interests of the coffee community, like the National Coffee Association and the Specialty Coffee Association, should be doing more than just condemning the ruling, but actively fighting it and appealing it. There are companies out there who litigate for a profit in California, and it seems like the independents could end up very exposed without the resources to protect themselves. In any lawsuit, it's the lawyers who have the most to gain. In 2016, businesses paid $30 million to settle various Prop 65 lawsuits, $21.5 million of that going for attorney fees and costs. Now, we can't see the current consumer base falling because of this warning, and Californians will probably just ignore these labels like they have before and just put it down to white noise. The problem is they don't communicate anything about the degrees of danger or possibilities on these warnings. When coffee carries the same warning as something like paint thinner or bleach, how can we be surprised that consumers don't take those warnings more seriously? Anyway, what do you think about this story? Do you think this is nuts like we do? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, moving on to something that we're much happier and much more excited about, and that is the London Coffee Festival. It starts next Thursday for the trade and opens up to the public from Friday afternoon. And you can pick up the latest issue of Caffeine at the festival. We did a video on this last year on the highlights, and you can see that by clicking up in the top right hand corner of the screen now. So what are we most interested in this year? Well, I think you'll find us hanging around the tasting room, specifically for the parallels between Coffee and Chocolate Workshop with Antonio McFarlane from Origin Coffee Roasters and Rio Nuevo Chocolate. We'll also be looking to jump in on the tasting with East London's Signature Brew, a local brewery, where you can sample their Nightliner Coffee Porter and explore different flavours and what could be achieved when combining coffee and beer. Being a bit of a Dungeons & Dragons geek as a kid, the Choose Your Own Adventure Home Coffee Cocktail Masterclass with Mr. Black also sounds right up our street. Other things we're looking forward to is a series of talks by 2004 World Barista Champion and Nordic Roasting Champion Tim Wendelboe, who'll also be on the judging panel for the Coffee Masters competition, which we discussed in episode 6. Again, link to that up in the top right hand corner. We'll also be keeping an eye on the Chimbley stand as they embark on their 4-part tasting experience. And we'll be hanging out with the party people that is La Mazzocco at the True Artisan Cafe. We hope to see you there. Come up, say hi if you see us at the festival. So lastly, we're going to talk about this, and it's the Kohi PressoPump. And we've recently been sent this. It's an interesting little gadget, probably best described as a portable espresso machine. It comes together in this handy little package, very similar size to some of those travel mugs that we've reviewed recently. And it unpacks into 7 individual parts. Now, there are other products on the market which look quite similar or produce espresso in that sort of same form factor, but they generally require you to sort of hand pump them to get the coffee up to pressure, whereas this one brews automatically. So to brew this, you need to use this little scoop here, and it holds around 7 to 8 grams of coffee, like a small single dose. You then tip it into this coffee basket. And then you use the back of the scoop as a tamper, which is very neat. This then goes on the underside of here. And this portion then inverts and screws onto there. Again, all very tidy. What you then have here is your little cup. Now this also has lines in here to show you with the fill markers. It suggests you put, I think, around 70 grams of water in there, but for that amount of coffee, that's probably too weak for us. You can put less in. So we're going to fill this up for around 30 grams. So we're now going to take this cup as instructed, and we're going to fill it with some hot water. Okay, that's about 30 grams. We recommend you kind of heat this up a bit hotter than you would usually. It seems to cool down the chamber quite a bit. You then twist that back on, upside down, and then it's as simple as this. Now the brew tends to take around 20 seconds, and as you can see, it's coming out now. This is battery powered. You can recharge it via a USB cable from a battery bank or your computer, or a standard USB socket that you put in the wall. Keep your finger on here until the water has all gone through and you'll hear it. There you go. Change in tone. There we go. Now that looks pretty good. I mean, this looks like a pretty standard or pretty good quality espresso shot. If we do look at it, it is a little bit light on the top. There is crema. We're using quite a developed coffee. It's certainly not dark or burnt, but it's a good espresso blend. Okay, not a lot of aroma. It's got that sort of texture as something like an espresso shot. So it's definitely thinner than a standard espresso that you would expect to find from a large machine. It does taste slightly under extracted. If you're the kind of person that likes an espresso and you're happy with that sort of flavour and you're happy with that texture, I think this is going to be great for you. If you're the kind of person that really wants to have an espresso when you go on holiday, or maybe you want to go camping. I think it doesn't quite hit the mark in terms of a proper espresso machine, but you know, it's a lot smaller device. If you want to look one of these up, you can find them for around $49.99 on Amazon. We will put a link below, though the last time we looked, it did look like they were out of stock. So what do you think? Have you used a portable espresso machine like this or a different one? Let us know. Let us know what you've used and what your favourite is, and put those in the comments down below. And that's where we're going to end it. If you like this video and like what we're trying to do here, then please hit that like button. It really does help us. And if you want to be kept up to date with these videos, then hit the subscribe button. If you want to see our last video, then there's a screen just down there. And thanks very much for watching.